Malign Portents. The cycle interrupted.
Horticulus Slimux frowned, the slick skin of his forehead furrowing like a well-ploughed field. The ancient demon had been thinking pleasant thoughts about running down the last survivors of Zentalis Old Town, his lolloping beasts of Nurgle driving the citizens into the open so their corpses could bring grandfather's prizes to the meadows and plains beyond. It would be a welcome and hard-earned change from desperate battle against that cursed axewoman Black Talon and her rangers. That much was sure. But to his frustration, his quarry was escaping.
"Perhaps running them down is a bit of a stretch,"
droned Slimux, given the sluggard's pace of his mollusk steed, Mulch. The humans would outpace them for days, yet. But there was something to be said for doing things slowly, steadily, and properly.
"But my little ass,"
muttered Horticulus.
"the snail always wins in the end."
But there was something on the wind that made his usual certainty ring hollow. The scent of death blew from the cracked plains to the north of Zentalis, with another smell cutting through. Was that the cold, nostril-scouring tang of sterility? Slimux shuddered at the thought. Death was all well and fine by him, an integral part of grandfather's great cycle, and a necessary prelude to the birth of glorious new life. He had long brought that gift to millions of souls over his existence, and extensively travelled Shyish, the realm of death, in his time. But, as he always told his wide-eyed nurgling helpers in the plague god's garden, a creature's demise was always followed by rebirth, whether of body or spirit, and from the tiniest forms of life blossomed vast and malodorous entities that pleased grandfather with their foulness. Until one day they too died, and the cycle continued.
"Ah, well,"
said Horticulus, snorting at his own introspection. He could still see the town survivors ahead, crossing the plain with his beasts in gleeful pursuit.
"on with the great labour."
He kicked his steed hard in its slime-clotted shell, and waggled the nurgling he had tied to his stick as a bait.
"Get 'em, Mulch."
The musculoid demon sighed heavily, rolled its eyes, and pulled itself forward as fast as it could, accelerating from the pace of an asthmatic nurgling to that of a leper at a dangerously high walk.
"Any moment now," he said, "I will bring some lovely life to this place."
He chewed on a splintered bone and peered with an expert's eye at the earth, but it remained cracked and dry. How could it be? His skill as a cultivator was such that even the most arid desert was soon rich compost for the blessings of the garden, and his seeds were the finest in all the lands. Up ahead, some of the scattered townspeople had noticed that Horticulus and his entourage had halted in their pursuit. One of the humans gave a strange laugh, his tone somewhere between relief and madness.
"Not having that," grumbled Horticulus. "Mulch, lead the charge."
The demon musculoid shambled forward, but as soon as his front set of legs touched the cracked flatlands, he screeched and recoiled, as if stung by a paladin wasp.
"That ain't right,"
said Horticulus. He peered down once more at the spore seeds. Instead of bursting into glorious life as they should have, they had shriveled away to black ruin. Nurgle's magic was not taking.
"We made it,"
shouted one of the Zentalis humans. "They're not coming after us." Horticulus ground his crumbled molars, his collar souring with every passing moment. He took a green clay urn from Mulch's shell the one containing his most prized plague flies, and cracked it open with his lopping shears to release a cloud of fat-bodied insects round him, not trespassing so much as a foot onto the cracked lands. "They can't touch us!" came the call from up ahead. One of them took out a short bow, and a moment later an arrow struck Horticulus right in the chest. It caused a momentary flicker of pain as it pierced his heart. The demon plucked out the arrow and snapped it, his anger rising up to consume all reason. He slid off Mulch's shell, took up his shears, and stepped out onto the flatlands, grimacing at the stinging pain he felt in the soles of his feet. The cracked earth shivered and shook as if revulsed, and 100 skeletal hands thrust upwards from the earth with a noise like 1,000 earthenware jars shattering at once. Those closest grabbed at Horticulus, but could not quite reach him, for they were repelled by the spore seeds scattered on the ground. "Huh," he grunted, slashing one of the hands with a backhand swipe of his shears. It came apart in a scattering of bones. Those hands bursting out nearest the human survivors experienced no such obstacle. They clawed at Zintalis's survivors in ever greater numbers, the earth around them crumbling away to reveal an entire layer of juddering skeletons beneath. Bony fingers sank into soft skin and ripped away chunks of pig flesh as the townspeople were dragged, screaming, into their graves. Horticulus raised his eyebrow, drinking in the spectacle with a mixture of satisfaction and disquiet.
"Strange times indeed,"
he muttered, climbing slowly onto the back of Mulch's saddle.
"But this old dog has plenty of tricks yet. Come on, my fine lads. Back to the garden wall with you. We have work to do."